Charlie Kirk, my friend, is Charlie Kirk, was publicly executed. Mrs. Erika Kirk addressed not just the nation, but the entire world. Her words were very powerful. Bill Ackman was very upset. Threats were made. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation.
It started as a simple story about faith, family, and a devoted wife until everything changed in one shocking moment. By day, Erika Kirk preached biblical womanhood, urging young women to shun ambition, reject boss babe culture, and embrace life in the shadows of faith and family. But 2 days after her husband Charlie Kirk was gunned down at Utah Valley University, she stood at the helm of Turning Point USA, vowing that the cries of this widow will be heard around the world. So how did a self-proclaimed biblical womanhood advocate transform overnight into the battle-crying CEO of a national political organization? Stay tuned as we uncover and analyze the Erika Kirk files. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can enjoy other videos like this. Chapter 1: The Making of Erika Kirk. Before the headlines, before the battle cries, there was Erika Franceva, a bright Arizona girl raised by a powerhouse mother who built tech companies from scratch. Born in 1988 in Scottsdale, she grew up watching Lori Franceva, a former GE executive turned entrepreneur, embody everything Erika would one day preach against. Erika excelled in school, earning degrees in political science, international relations, and law, later chasing a doctorate in biblical studies. She won Miss Arizona USA in 2012, worked in modeling and media, and built a resume most career women would envy. Yet she turned her back on that path. Through her Christian clothing brand Proclaim, her midweek Rise Up podcast, and her Bible in 365 program, Erika reinvented herself as a faith-driven guide for young women. One who said ambition was the enemy of grace. On stage at conservative summits, she denounced boss babe culture and urged wives to submit to their husbands. It was a carefully created image, revealing a woman who chose submission over success. But soon, the world would see just how complex that choice really was. This is where Erika Kirk's story begins. It happened in broad daylight on September 10th, 2025, just after noon. Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old firebrand of conservative youth politics, was mid-sentence at Utah Valley University when a single shot shattered the air. Panic, screams, chaos. Within hours, headlines blazed across every network. Assassination at UVU. Police named 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson as the suspect, and 2 days later, he surrendered with his parents. Prosecutors called it a politically motivated killing and vowed to seek the death penalty. But even before the courtroom lights turned on, another drama had already begun. 48 hours after the shooting, Erika Kirk, who is now a widow, stood on stage at Turning Point USA's Phoenix headquarters. No tears, no retreat, no silence. Now she declared that the cries of this widow will echo around the world, thanked Donald Trump and J.D. Vance by name, declared war on evildoers, and promised that her husband's mission will not die. On one hand, this can be seen as strength beyond comprehension. On the other hand, it looked like something too swift and secretive, more or less like a political campaign launched from the ashes of grief. Every word of that speech fit into a clear rhetorical structure of a receipt ladder of martyrdom, vows, and personal testimony. She framed Charlie as a martyr who laid down his life for the nation. She issued vows of continuation, assuring followers that the mission would carry on. She spoke in warnings by mobilizing anger into action, and just when the intensity risked alienating the audience, she humanized it all with a simple image: the moment she saw his lifeless body in the hospital. Pathos, logos, and ethos, perfectly balanced. This wasn't odd behavior, it was strategic crisis communication. Erika Kirk was stabilizing a political empire. In a movement built around one charismatic figure, the sudden vacuum could have shattered everything. Her militant composure was defense. By stepping into the spotlight as the political widow, she absorbed her husband's authority, transferring his charisma to herself through the sanctity of shared grief. Chapter 2: Widow, CEO, and the Shadows of Conspiracy. When she returned to the stage on September 21st for the memorial, the tone softened. Forgiveness got into the script with grace layered over vengeance. The event played like a hybrid, part church service, part political rally, complete with high-profile guests like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Days later, the board confirmed her as CEO and chair, citing it as Charlie's dying wish. The woman who once told young girls to reject ambition now commanded a multi-million-dollar empire. Perhaps Erica Kirk's transformation wasn't a betrayal of her faith at all, but its most calculated expression: devotion turned strategy, grief turned power. Meanwhile, in every American tragedy, there is the story the public is told and the one rumored beneath it. The official narrative of Charlie Kirk's death seemed tight. On September 10th, 2025, a 22-year-old named Tyler James Robinson walked into Utah Valley University, pulled the trigger, and ended the life of one of the nation's most polarizing conservative figures. Prosecutors said Robinson acted out of political rage. Text messages allegedly showed him writing that he had enough of Kirk's hatred. The media framed it as an assassination born of ideology, a hate crime against free speech itself, but almost immediately cracks began to form. Conservative commentator Candace Owens took to social media, suggesting that Charlie Kirk's death wasn't just political, but personal. She claimed Charlie had ordered a secret financial audit within Turning Point USA, uncovering discrepancies tied to donor funds. According to Owens, powerful benefactors, including billionaire Bill Ackman, had pressured Charlie to realign Turning Point USA's stance on Israel and foreign policy. She claimed that Charlie had recently launched an internal audit that uncovered financial inconsistencies, sparking tension among top donors and board members. Days before his death, Owens alleged those tensions reached a breaking point behind closed doors. Ackman, however, forcefully denied every accusation, calling the claims utterly false and deeply irresponsible, insisting he had no involvement with TPUSA's finances or internal politics.
Bibi Netanyahu, in that phone call, which took place was a couple of weeks ago before Charlie lost his life, essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman. Because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no.
Then there was yet another perspective. Owens and several independent commentators argued that Tyler James Robinson, the 22-year-old charged with Charlie's murder, was being used as a scapegoat. They pointed to gaps in his alleged confession, social media inconsistencies, and even claimed there was no verified proof he had ever set foot on the Utah Valley University campus. In their telling, the murder wasn't political at all. It was a cover-up for a brewing internal conflict that conveniently ended with Erica Kirk's sudden rise to power. Yet official investigators, court filings, and mainstream outlets have found no credible evidence supporting any of these claims. Prosecutors continue to pursue the ideological motive. Still, the conspiracy theories refuse to die, spreading through Telegram channels, private podcasts, and encrypted group chats, gaining traction among those convinced the official version hides something darker. Why does it matter? Because the truth behind Charlie Kirk's death shapes everything that came next. If the official story stands, then Erica's swift ascension looks like a powerful act of devotion, a widow stepping up to defend her husband's mission. But if the rumors are true, if money, power, or betrayal played a role, then her rise begins to look less like destiny and more like design. And so the battle continues. Chapter 3, From Widow to Movement Mother. The boardroom was silent the morning they made the decision. Only days after the assassination, Turning Point USA's leadership voted unanimously to hand the position to Erika Kirk. The widow who once preached biblical womanhood was now the CEO of one of America's most powerful conservative organizations. Within weeks, TPUSA reported record-breaking donations, surging memberships, and overflowing campus events. AmericaFest sold out in hours. The widow's fire had reignited the movement. This gave rise to a woman leading an anti-feminist empire. Erica redefined submission as service to a legacy. She brought the language of faith to the language of politics with equal parts altar and arena. Behind the scenes, Erica's doctorate in biblical studies quietly began to shape the very soul of Turning Point USA's messaging. Her speeches no longer sounded like standard political rally talk. They felt like modern-day sermons. She quoted scripture alongside sound bites about freedom and American destiny, turning ideology into liturgy. What began as activism started to resemble revival. For her growing audience, Erica's message struck a powerful chord. Women could be both faithful and fearless, patriotic and pious. Her reimagined version of conservative femininity was carried across college campuses and church networks alike. Enrollment in TPUSA's women's programs surged, and her image appeared everywhere. Devotional live streams, branded merchandise, even study guides blending politics with prayer. Her followers called her the movement mother, while media outlets labeled her the widow of the revolution. She soon expanded Charlie's base, giving conservative women a new archetype: submission as strategy, obedience as power. From that moment forward, Erica Kirk was the embodiment of his mission, the living extension of faith-driven populism. Under her command, Turning Point USA evolved, becoming part church, part crusade, both spiritual and militant in tone. Chapter 4: Faith, Fury, and the Politics of Grief. At this point, Erica mastered the impossible balance between mourning and mobilizing. She invoked faith and fury in equal measure, transforming Charlie Kirk's assassination into a call to arms for millions. But her story isn't only about one woman or one organization. It's about a broader truth in modern America: how tragedy can become a political currency and how belief can transform into branding. In today's polarized world, grief is rarely private and power rarely waits. Erica Kirk stands at that intersection, where faith meets influence and loss becomes leverage. The moral question remains: is this the natural evolution of leadership in an age of spectacle, or the exploitation of sorrow for strategy? Maybe both truths coexist. Maybe they always have. In many ways, Erica's journey mirrors a larger American pattern. Across the political spectrum, personal pain has become public performance, used to humanize, mobilize, and monetize ideology. The political widow archetype, once confined to historical figures, now reemerges in real time through live streams, social media clips, and viral speeches. Erica Kirk didn't invent this phenomenon, she perfected it for the digital age. So perhaps the real legacy of this story isn't about Charlie Kirk's death or Erica's rise, but about the culture that rewards both. A culture that transforms mourning into marketing, outrage into influence, and faith into fuel. As the trial of Tyler James Robinson moves forward, and Turning Point USA grows under its new leader, the meaning of Charlie Kirk's death and Erica's rise continues to evolve. History will decide whether her transformation was divinely ordained or politically designed. One thing is certain: the story of Erica Kirk forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the cost of conviction and the performance of grief in public life. But these symbols are dangerous things. They outgrow their creators, rewriting intent with interpretation. Erica's message of faithful resistance began to evolve beyond her control. Churches carried her words about spiritual warfare in politics, while college groups repurposed her speeches as manifestos. The widow's voice had become a movement, and movements have a way of devouring nuance. Some say Erica Kirk represents the future of American belief, where religion and politics no longer merely coexist but merge into a single ideology of divine nationalism. Others argue she's the inevitable byproduct of a culture that rewards spectacle more than sincerity. Whatever the truth, one thing is undeniable: her transformation reshaped an entire generation's understanding of what power looks like in grief. In a world where tragedy is broadcast, where emotion is monetized, Erica Kirk mastered both the pulpit and the podium. Whether her rise was heaven-sent or humanly engineered may never be known. But do you think, as history remembers the day the bullet silenced Charlie and gave birth to something larger, that Erica Kirk truly found her calling in her husband's death, or did she finally reveal who she was meant to be all along? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Also, if you have followed this journey of faith, power, and paradox, like, comment, and subscribe.